The results you get in your life aren't just determined by what you do, they're determined by what you think, what you feel, and most importantly, what you believe is possible for yourself. Because manifestation isn't magic. It's not wishful thinking, it's a science and it's a skill. And the most successful people in the world are using it every single day. So today, I've brought together 7 of the world's leading experts in neuroscience, psychology, quantum physics, and human potential to give you the exact blueprint for your life. They're going to show you how to rewire your brain for abundance, how to align your thoughts, emotions, and energy with exactly what you want to create in your life, and how to finally stop getting in your own way with that whole self-sabotage thing that so many people do. And by the end of this episode, you will understand how to manifest your dream life. I am so excited. In section 1, we have Gregg Braden. The first thing you need to understand about manifestation is how your inner voice and emotional environment play a part in shaping your reality. In this section with Gregg Braden, he is an internationally recognized pioneer in bridging science, spirituality, and human potential. And he breaks this down completely. So let's go ahead and dive in. We're getting information from the outside world, whether it be media, parents, friends, peers, whatever it might be, advertising, all coming to us. We're also getting, what I heard you say, our most powerful environment is our emotional environment. So we're getting information from our emotional environment constantly. How important then is our inner self-talk and the stories we tell ourselves in how we either create and attract what we want in terms of abundance or have more of a miserable type of a life?
Sure. Well, you nailed it. And that is the essence of our humanness. We have conscious stories and unconscious stories. I had an unconscious story that I am not safe in the world without my protector. I was not consciously aware of that. So that inner conversation is vital. It's more than important. It's vital. Our story defines the way that we are in the world. So we live our lives based upon our story, the way we're conditioned to think about ourselves. Everybody has a story that begins before we're even born in our mother's womb. The epigenetic factors are determining our subconscious story. The way that our friends and our family and our peers and our school and our church teach us to deal with the world. That's all part of our story. And based upon our story defines every relationship we'll ever have. This is an adult audience, I'm assuming. Mm-hmm. So every relationship, every friend that we'll ever have, every human that we invite into our bed is a reflection of the story that we have told ourselves about ourselves and believe. This is the key. What story do you believe? Many people tell themselves stories, but they don't even believe their own stories. Those are called affirmations. You can say the affirmations 1,000,000 times a day if you don't believe that you are worthy of a perfect mate, if you don't believe that you're worthy of the healing.
How does one, Gregg, start to believe they are worthy and deserving of incredible love, abundance,
we're doing this right
health?
now. Yeah.
Even if they had a horrible backstory, even if their parents abandoned them, abused them, if they've been cheated on, lied to, stolen from, physically, sexually, emotionally abused over and over again, when their reality was something that was painful and suffering. How can they believe I'm worthy? Look at all the bad stuff that's happened to me.
What you just described is the workshop of life. That's where the workshop begins. But the workshop has to begin with the story, Lewis. We are not what we've been told. We're more than we've been led to believe. We need the reasons to think differently about ourselves. I can walk into an audience and I can say, you're powerful beings. And I've seen it a million times with 1,000,000 speakers. People have a notebook just like you have right there.
Yep.
And they write just like you're writing right now. And they'll say, I am powerful. I'm a power. And then they'll look up and say, yeah, what's next? Because it meant nothing.
But if they don't believe it,
exactly,
it doesn't mean
nothing
anything
to them. Knowledge is power.
So you need story plus the belief of that story.
Well, one of the reasons I honor the left brain, everyone has a left brain to some degree. Everyone learns differently. Not everyone learns the same. Not everyone wants to hear everything that I just shared with you. But if someone is looking for the reason to think differently, they're saying, Gregg, give me a reason to think differently about myself. I'm sharing with you in the book a lot more detail, but I'm sharing the science that shows us that we are a soft technology. We're not a frail, flawed biological form of life subject to flaws. We have very, very few flaws. Our body performs with what it's given to work with. Our body is a reflection. Candace Pert, the Harvard MD, said this.
The molecules of emotion.
Molecules of motion. She actually said your body is your subconscious mind, because what you believe about yourself is creating the chemicals in the body that your body is.
Fascinating?
Yeah, it really is. And
your body is your subconscious, mind.
mind.
So that means what you think and believe about yourself,
consciously and subconsciously,
you create within your body.
So I, as a child, had to reconcile what I felt, what I would call my soul compass, because it wasn't supported in my community. People didn't talk like this when I was a kid, and it sent me on a journey to understand myself, and that led me on a journey to understand our past, and that led me on a journey to understand. I had two. I don't know how we're doing on time. Can I share a couple of stories?
Yeah.
Two very powerful stories. Experience when I was 14. So now I've left home. I'm living with my band, and I go to see my first rock concert. It was a group that was called Jefferson Airplane, and the lead singer was this stunningly beautiful woman named Grace Slick, is her name. She's still alive today. And I sat on the front row and yelled at Grace Slick and told her how much I loved her, and she completely blew me off. But I watched. In that room, there were about 30,000 people.
Wow.
And I watched them moved by what a couple of people did on that stage. But here's the thing. Then the concert was over and we left. And everyone needed to have something to recreate that experience. At that time, there were 8-track tapes or albums. They needed something to recreate that. Now,
that feeling, that emotion.
A couple of weeks later, I had another experience, and I'm not saying I'm aligned with the message. There was an evangelist named Billy Graham, a powerful, powerful speaker. He spoke to 70,000 people in the Kansas City Athletics Stadium, outdoor stadium. And here's the difference. When those people left, they felt differently about themselves. They didn't need anything to recreate the feeling because his words had helped them to sense and to feel and to see themselves differently than they did before they went in to hear that.
Wow.
And what I recognized as a kid, I don't know exactly how I'm going to do this, but I think there is a way. Our words, the words are so powerful. I mean, when you think about what we do with words, we breathe the breath from outside of us. We invite it into our bodies. We begin to flutter our diaphragm. We push the air back over the direction it just came down from, and as it's moving back, we begin to flutter our vocal cords in just the right way. Listen to this, to reflect the thoughts and the feelings that we're having as acoustic waveforms so they can leave our bodies and fall in the skin and onto the eardrums of another living being to convey our deepest, most intimate experiences. Do you know how powerful that is?
It's fascinating.
And nobody tells us that. Nobody tells us that. So
so we're expressing a frequency based on the words we use, the sounds we use, and then every other person is receiving that frequency as well.
It begins with a thought. Nobody can see our thought, but we're converting the thought into acoustic waveforms through the air that we're forcing back, and the ability to modulate our vocal cords in just the right way to create those acoustic patterns, and then they leave our bodies. My words have left my body. Now they're falling on you. They're touching your skin. They're touching your eardrums, and your nervous system is now interpreting my thoughts. And we are so good at it, we don't give it a second thought.
Yeah.
That's how powerful we are.
What is the frequency of our words and how it supports or harms us?
It's not so much the words themselves, it's the meaning that we give to the words. That's the key.
So it's the interpretation of the words.
The significance that we give to the word, that we either tell ourselves about ourselves and believe. I have to believe them, or that other people instill within us before the age of 7.
You talked about this story in the beginning where, you and your brother grew up in the same environment, same parents, same schooling, essentially, but you have different lives. You interpreted things differently. How can one learn to break an interpretation that they've lived a life of pain, sadness, and suffering? Not deny the experience that happened to them, but not define them moving forward and holding them back from the abundance that they want to create in their life.
That's the beauty of our humanness and our divinity. We have the ability to choose. We must accept the responsibility with that choice that we choose not to be defined by our past. That was a choice. It was a conscious choice I made when I was young. I looked at my father's life. I looked at the destruction, the emotional destruction. I looked at what it was doing to me. And I said, now, my younger brother, and I love my brother, and if he's watching this, I haven't talked to you for a while, brother, but I love you. He carries that hurt and allows that to define his life. And so all of the misfortune, and this isn't nothing new, you've heard this, all the misfortunes, the bad relationships, the bad jobs, whatever it is, it's somebody else's fault. You're looking around you for the reasons. And that is a fundamental shift in understanding our relationship to the world. We must choose, consciously or subconsciously. I'm not saying it's always a conscious choice, but on some level we choose to be defined by what the circumstances of the past, or we choose to free ourselves. Human divinity is what allows us to do that. If we don't have our human divinity, the ability to innovate, to imagine, to create, to love, these are all facets of human divinity. You begin to see why it's so important for us to preserve, to claim and preserve our humanness, our bodies. I think perhaps the greatest task that we're given as humans is to honor, preserve, protect the gift of our bodies. Because once we relinquish our humanness to the technology, we'll never get it back. Once we give our humanness, once we give our biology away, we'll never get it back. And we become something very different. This is what Ray Kurzweil is talking about, and it's what the others are talking about. But it comes down to something even deeper than that. And if you're going to do a soundbite, maybe this is going to be the soundbite, because not everybody's into the good and evil, not everybody's into the technology and all of that. It comes down to love. The question that we all ask ourselves, do we love ourselves enough to accept the gift of our humanness and the responsibility that comes with being a human and our divinity, expressing our divinity fearlessly in this world? That's the question we're all asking ourselves. And without a verbal answer, the choices that we make, the politics that we choose, the medical systems that we choose, the food that we eat, the wars that we create, or the peace that we create are the answer to that question. We're all answering it right now, but how can you answer it if you don't know the context? So I'm going to go back. Good and evil, a battle between good and evil. This is a very different battle. You don't win this battle. It's not the kind of battle that you win by fighting. We don't want to win. We want to triumph. And the way you triumph, and this is the beauty, you don't have to know any of this. The way we triumph is by living the best version of ourselves. We live our humanness. We live our divinity. We love fearlessly. We innovate. We create. We forgive without expectation. When we do that forgiveness, we do all of those things. And by doing that, that is the very opposite. The evil wants to defeat us by separating us from those expressions. When we live them, we have triumphed.
Wow.
And I think that's the beauty of where we are right now.
So again, if someone...
That makes sense if I say
it? Makes sense to me, of course. But if someone's watching, listening, and they're thinking, I've just had a rough life.
Sure.
I've just had a tough life. I'm sure you can think of someone in your life who's been holding on to that story. And maybe it's validated, right?
Yeah.
Like they can validate that and they've had it really challenging.
Sure.
If we can try to simplify the steps, maybe the actions and the practice might take a lot of time and energy and conscious effort, but if we could simplify the steps, if someone is feeling completely stuck or broken in their relationships, their financial situation, their career path, and they just feel like energetically things are not working for me. I'm not able to create the life I want. I'm hearing you say we're supposed to protect and preserve our bodies, but I'm taking drugs because it's helping me deal with all this stress. I'm using alcohol, porn, addiction because I'm exhausted. What would be the practical steps that they could start to apply in their life to go from a story and a past of suffering or sadness and transform it into peace, freedom, and financial and emotional abundance in their life?
That is a really good question. And what we're doing now is the answer to that question. It has to begin with knowing that you have a choice. First of all,
Step one, know you have a
so
choice.
many people believe that there is no choice because they have been conditioned and indoctrinated to believe that they are powerless victims of a world around them that they have no control over, and that they are a flawed form of life that needs something outside of their bodies. Right? So knowledge is power. You have to be willing to embrace the deep truth of your humanness and your divinity. It's very difficult to break through those patterns if you are not willing to accept the truth of your humanness and the power and responsibility that comes with being a human on this earth. And we're given very few reasons to do that, Lewis, in our lives, and our school children are given very few reasons to do that. And that's why they've lost respect in many cases for their bodies. They don't have a sense of a future because the indoctrination is telling them they live in a world where it's hopeless. That's what it's telling them. Now, with the exception of the drugs, we were more than poor. When my father finally left, he left when I was 10, fortunately. Tough for my mom, raising two boys. She didn't have a job. This was early 1960s.
Northern Missouri, or where were you?
Yeah, northern Missouri, just north of Kansas City, Missouri.
Northwest Missouri.
Northwest Missouri, yeah. I lied about my age. I went to work in a copper mill so I could be a union worker. After school, I worked union hours, 4 p.m. to 4 a.m. There were 12-hour shifts. We lived in government subsidized housing for most of my teen years until I left, and then I was forced to go back. At the age of 14, I left. The court intervened and said, you have to go back until you're 18 or you become a ward of the state. So I went back. We lived in government subsidized housing. And it's one of those things, you can hear the words from a million different people. You have to find a reason to become more than the circumstances of your past. You have to find that reason for yourself. And that's why the information, it's more than just data. When I can show someone the potential within their bodies to look at it differently, when I can show someone what their divinity is really all about, and that it's so valuable that nations will create wars to divert and distract us, what is it within us that could possibly warrant that extreme of hurt and suffering? It's because we are so valuable and so precious.
In this section, Joe Dispenza, who is a researcher, a lecturer, neuroscientist, who works with and sits at the intersection of neuroscience and quantum physics, he's going to break down how to shift your reality of what's really holding you back right now. So say it one more time, we cannot attract anything we want in our lives that we feel separate from.
Exactly.
What if we do attract something from lack? When we have it, how will it make us feel?
Well, if you work hard and you put in your time and, matter to matter, you're, getting your behaviors to match your intentions and your actions equal to your thoughts, you're getting your mind and body working together, you're going to run into your goal. You're going to run into your experience. The experience of your abundance, your experience of your thing that you want takes away the lack of not having it, right? But some people are creating, but they're spending their whole life in lack, waiting for their world to change to feel abundant, right? And we discovered that that's kind of the opposite of the way people actually get what they want. When they start holding a very clear vision of their future, and we call that intention, and you need a coherent brain to do that, and we work diligently to get people's brains tuned up to order. The more coherent the brain, the more high functioning it is, the greater the signal. And it turns out that you have to feel the emotion of the future before it happens, because the emotion is the energy that's going to drive your body to that end and to have the experience. And at the same time, if you're truly practicing feeling the emotion of your future, you won't be in lack. In fact, you'll feel, if you feel like your future has already happened, you'll never look for it. You only look for it when you feel separate from it. So it's kind of an analogy of like, cause and effect, waiting for your healing to feel gratitude, waiting for your abundance to feel worthy or successful, waiting for your relationship to feel love, the old model of reality of cause and effect. The new model of reality is causing an effect.
Causing an effect.
Yeah, the moment you feel gratitude, your healing begins.
Wow.
The moment you're empowered and you're worthy, you're stepping or generating abundance, you're stepping towards your success. Now, the moment you're in love with yourself and in love with life and you see beauty in all things, it's natural that you'll attract an equal. So that's causing an effect, right? And so all you need is a clear intention and an elevated emotion.
Mm-hmm.
And when you combine that clear intention and elevated emotion, just like when a person is remembering the past and feeling the emotion, if you start holding the intention and you feel the emotion, the stronger the emotion you feel, the more you remember the vision and you can begin to remember your future. Why is that important? Because biologically, if you do it well, your brain will look like it's already happened. And if you do it really well, genetically, your body will begin to change to look like it's already happened. In other words, our data shows that in 7 days at a week-long event, when people really get in the creative process, they upregulate thousands of genes and metabolites to suggest that they're living in a whole new life, a whole new environment. The body's so objective. It doesn't know the difference between a real-life experience that creates the emotion and the emotion that we can create by thought alone. To the body, it's exactly the same. So the body begins to believe it's living in that future. And of course, there's the thought and the feeling. There's the image and the emotion. There's the stimulus and response. We can condition the body emotionally to begin to believe it's living in the future. And if the environment signals the gene, and it does, the end product of an experience in the environment is emotion, you could actually regulate genes, upregulate genes ahead of the environment. That's exactly what we discovered. And people's bodies and brains change enough that it looks like the event has already happened. Now, this is where the fun part starts. Because if there's physical evidence in your brain and body that it has already happened, time to relax. This is when the synchronicities, this is when the opportunities, this is when the coincidences, all of a sudden you no longer have to go anywhere and do anything to get it. Somehow there's an attraction, they're coming to you. They're coming to you without having to do anything. And so it's just a reframing of our understanding of how to create. You can get really good at creating a lot of things matter to matter. You can, study. You can learn from your mistakes. You can, get consulting. You can do all these things, and you can get really good at doing it. But there's another way. There is another way. And so to answer the question about being stuck, many people are living their whole entire life, not consciously. They're just subconsciously waiting for their wealth to happen so they could feel abundant, waiting for their new relationship to feel love, that old model of reality.
And what I'm hearing you say is that your personality creates your personal reality, and your personality is based on how we think, act, and feel. And so if we're living in a personality state currently that is creating the results of feeling separate or lacked from abundance, a better relationship, more money, better health, then we must learn to shift the personality to create a new reality for ourselves.
It's exactly the truth. In other words, in order for you to create a new personal reality, you have to change your personality. In other words, nothing changes in our life until we change. Now, look, it's really simple. Just look, just make it really simple. Let's just say somebody wants to have a goal to make a certain amount of money.
Yes.
Or they want to get in shape, right? And here's the personality who's on the couch, who's, eating Fritos, and drinking a beer, Twinkies, laying around, not motivated at all. And the person wants to get healthy, or the person wants to become abundant. There's got to be a lot of things that have to change in order for you to be the personality of abundance, because it isn't abundance, it's who you become. It's who you become in the process.
It's almost like this person is out of alignment from the goal, the vision, the dream that they want to have. They have to be in more alignment of the person that can create that and harmonize with it, is what I'm hearing you say.
And it's let's demystify it. If you want to become abundant, study abundant people. Get as much knowledge and resources, enough connections in your brain so you have a storehouse of information for you can dream what it is to be abundant. Because if you study abundant people, they made a lot of mistakes. People betrayed them. People got stole from them. They lost everything. They had a journey, and the difference is they just went one more time. They just didn't see failure. They just kept going. So, what are the qualities and characteristics that you would have to embody to become that abundant person? And get busy doing that. Get busy doing that in terms of change, and use it as an experiment. Like, if I change, will my life change, right? If I give up lack, if I give up fear, yeah, it sounds easy theoretically. You're going to have to put your time in. You're going to have to work inwardly. You're going to have to do some surveillance on your own thoughts and how you act and how you feel. And you got to get really good. So good at doing it with your eyes closed, you got to do it with your eyes open. It means you can't default in your life, right?
Yeah, when life happens and there's distractions and people in your face and people cutting you off
One
in the
emotional
street.
response, and you seamlessly return back to the old personality. It's the worst. But that's why we have another day.
Yes.
It's a new day. Like, okay, how did I do in one day, one lifetime? Like, how did I do? I sucked. Okay, God's not up there with a laptop keeping track. You got another shot at it the next day. So can you learn from the last day and say, when did I fall from grace? Oh, I reacted to that person or circumstance with the same emotion. That emotion caused me to behave as if I was in my past and believe in my past. And that's when you no longer see the future, because the emotion that you're feeling is keeping you connected to the past. You only believe in your future when you feel the emotion of your future. So enthusiasm and theos, filled with God, inspiration, inspire the movement of energy, right? The energy that it takes, the looking forward to, the optimism, that is what drives us to our dreams. And you just got to be able to sustain that state of being independent of anyone or anything in your life. And if you can, get ready, because that's when your life changes. You're literally thinking differently, you're acting differently, and you're feeling differently. That's a new personality, and that means a new personal reality. That's the experiment.
In this next section, we have Rhonda Byrne, and you will never be able to manifest what you want if you keep the negative thoughts ruminating in your mind. Rhonda Byrne, one of the most famous teachers on manifestation, breaks down how to reprogram your thoughts right now.
Whatever we say is what our life will be. And so if we are saying, I don't have enough money, then by law of attraction, we will not have enough money. We will continue to not have enough money. So what we have to do is we need to speak about what we want. And we need to talk about, for example, if it's money or if it's health, or if we're not feeling really great, then we can talk about what it feels like to be really well, instead of talking about not being well, right? Because if we're talking about not being well, we're attracting more of that, more of that, more of that.
Right.
And so that's basically law of attraction. I mean, it is so wonderful and it's so intricate. And the more that it becomes a part of your life, the more you see the little kind of twists and turns,
Synchronicities.
Like for example, if you're saying, I'm so overwhelmed, there's just so much going on at the moment and I can't get on top of things and I'm just overwhelmed. Guess what? Guess what's coming? More overwhelmment.
Right.
More,
So when we speak about things that are frustrating us, that are overwhelming, that are stressing us out, that we're in lack of, when we speak about them, or we're constantly in a loop of thinking of those thoughts and then speaking them to ourselves or to others, what I'm hearing you say is it's going to be a lot harder to get beyond those struggles than to speak in a different way or think in a different way. Is that what I'm hearing you say?
That's the case. And in fact, Until we think differently, it won't change.
Really?
It wouldn't matter all the action in the world. All the action in the world will not override a belief that we have. And usually when we speak, for example, if I'm saying, I'm so overwhelmed, so much is happening. And when we're saying I'm so overwhelmed, we believe it, like we're saying it with conviction, right? And so the fact that we believe it, it's not going to change. We're going to keep, more things are going to come, more things are going to come.
And even if someone, let's say they did work hard for a long time and they're feeling this overwhelm, and all of a sudden they started to make a lot more money, but it's not going to change the overwhelm if they keep thinking it.
That's right.
So more money might come because you spent more time in this world and worked hard,
Right.
and it's just your time to make more.
Right.
But you still might say, well, I'm still overwhelmed. It's not enough.
Yeah.
Right? There's
Exactly.
not enough feeling. Even though you have more,
Yep.
you're still stressed and overwhelmed.
You're still
And that's why you
stressed
see
and
people
overwhelmed.
with money, some people with money who aren't fulfilled or happy. They're still overwhelmed.
That's right. Yeah.
So how do we shift it so that when more comes our way, we're actually not feeling more overwhelmed, but more in
Right.
abundance and grateful for
It's
that?
so simple. It's so easy. We just have to think about what we want. And do we want to feel overwhelmed? And no, we don't. So what do you want? I want all of the success, but I want it to be effortless and easy. And I want to have lots of spare time. And I want to really be enjoying it. And I want, talk about what you want, and talk about what you want until you have what you want.
When people talk about what they don't want consistently,
Yeah.
what typically happens?
They get that. That's what they get.
More of what they don't want.
Yeah, they get more of what they don't want. If we could just talk about what we want, our life would be incredible, amazing, spectacular. That's it. Just to talk about. But we have a world that's very beautiful, but orientated towards drama, and news is negative, and so it's challenging for people, but we're all in it together.
Yes.
Because we're all dealing with the mind, and the mind that might be delivering a whole lot of negative thoughts, but not one of us, it's not harder for one or easier for another. We all have this mind that can be like a flatmate and chatter, nonstop chatter, keep going on, so we're all dealing with that. And the mind, it's just a program. It's not an entity. It's just a program. And so I think, because certainly through my experience, through The Secret, you can totally train your mind to be positive, so that it is not leaning toward the negative all of the time. And positive is just what you want.
Right.
Right?
When someone is thinking or speaking about what they want, does that mean that they are in lack of it? Or how do they speak about it where it's not from a place of lack?
Right. It's a good question, because
You know what I mean? If I'm
it's
like,
a fine
I want
line.
this, but I don't have it. So how do we speak about it where we're in gratitude and positive around it, as opposed to, I really want this thing, but it's not in my life right now, but I really want it?
Yeah, but the problem is you just cancelled out the manifestation when you said, but it's not in my life right now. Yeah, because if you're saying that, well, you could say it like this: I would really love to have this. It's a little bit softer, right, than I want, but to manifest something to deliberately manifest, you have to want it, but then you can't have any thoughts of, well, it's not here yet. Because the moment you say it's not here yet, what does law of attraction do? It's not here yet.
And it's constantly not here yet.
Yeah.
So say this again. How do we really manifest something? We put it out there, we speak it or we think it, but then we detach from it?
Yeah. And, here's the thing. We so don't realize our own amazing power, that we can just ask for something and it will be given to us.
Now here's what the criticism online is for The Secret,
Okay.
or the Law of Attraction,
Okay.
or anyone talking about manifesting.
Okay.
This is what I'll see people, and this is typically
Okay.
people in lack, or maybe people with more of a negative frustration because they don't have what they want. They will say, or these are comments that I'll see, you can't just think something and expect it to appear without putting in the hard work, without action, without consistency. It's just, the world just doesn't work like that. When you see comments like that, or people say this, how would you respond to someone saying, thinking that or saying that?
Well, I don't, I always kind of feel that everybody has the right to think what they want and believe what they want. And I know it's not the case. I remember Lester Levinson said something so incredible. He was a wonderful teacher. He's not alive anymore. But he was very simple in the way that he talked. And he told these students that if you want something, I could lock you up in a room and padlock that room, and you ask for that, and you know you have it, right? You know you have it now, and it will come.
Really?
Yeah, it will come, and nothing in this world can stop it. So,
Wow.
right?
What are some examples in your life where you've thought or spoken about something you desired or wanted, and it has come effortlessly? Or maybe an example of people that have written about their success stories. Is there anything you can think of?
Right.
Where maybe for a long time they'd struggled in manifesting or attracting what they wanted, but
Right.
they started to apply this and really believed it, and that thing came to them.
Right. Well, when I did a book signing, and I got to talk to all of these different people, and every single person at that book signing told me about how their life had completely changed.
Wow.
And what was amazing was, so somebody would say that they were working, I don't know, cleaning a bank or something, and they wanted to have their own sound studio. And that is what they decided to manifest. And they visualized and visualized, and they felt it, and they wouldn't allow any thoughts of doubt to enter their mind. And they are now running one of the top sound studios in LA.
Wow.
But not just that, they met their perfect partner. They bought their dream house. They have, 2 children, or they travel. Every single thing that they wanted, they received. And that was what was so amazing about all of these people when I was signing books. It wasn't just one thing in their life, but these people were amazing. They did gratitude all of the time, or they did affirmations all of the time. And they had a complete change within themselves, to be kind, to other people. And so they would think positively. They were aware when negative thoughts came, and they would stop them in their tracks. And so for me, I think the biggest manifestation for me was The Secret.
In section 4, we have Dr. Tara Swart. What is happening in your brain when you try to manifest? That's the real question. Dr. Tara Swart, who is one of the world's most respected neuroscientists, breaks this down so that you can actually fully understand it. Check this out. If you had to break down the science of manifestation in the simplest terms, with a few steps on how people could start to apply it to their life, as a neuroscientist, what would you say that would be?
One of the things I really pride myself on is making complex subjects simple and accessible.
Yes.
Because I genuinely think, what is the point of knowing anything if you can't help somebody to understand it and use it, where it's going to make a really big difference to their life? And I actually received a similar compliment on Instagram today, and I don't always write back. I don't always have time to write back, but I said, that is the best compliment, thank you. So I'd like to approach this in a few ways. The practical road to manifestation, which is based on neuroplasticity because of my background, and that means the ability of your brain to change and grow, and therefore your ability to think differently, manage your emotions differently, act differently in the material world. So based on that, manifestation is really just setting a goal or choosing an outcome and taking the actions that you have to make that come true. It's as simple as that. But the neuroscience process starts with raised awareness. So, if your life hasn't panned out exactly like you always dreamed it would, or you find yourself stuck, or you find yourself repeatedly making the same kind of mistake, then you need to understand why, because you can't change it if you don't understand why you're not achieving the things you want, or, what's holding you back, what's a barrier, what's an obstacle, and indeed what you could do differently. So once you think, okay, this is not working for me, this is how I would rather my life should be. This
is my vision. This is my dream,
vision.
my goal.
Yeah.
This is the outcome that I want.
Yeah. It's not immediately a case of doing something. So
really, it's not about taking action right away.
Not right away. And well, I will use you as an example of all the mental rehearsal that you did when you were doing the decathlon.
Yes.
You know what you want to achieve with that decathlon, let's say with the pole vaulting. Then you spend all those hours just playing it over in your head. Then you actually go out and do the practice pole vaulting, and then you compete. So it's kind of like that.
So it's mental rehearsal, visualization, then the physical practice, then the moment.
Yeah, and that makes sense with sport, right? And I wanted to use something tangible so that people could get it. But when it might be something more to do with, I want to manage to regulate my emotions better, or I want to stop choosing the same kind of guy where the relationship always ends up badly, then because it's a bit less tangible, the process that I've laid out is start with raised awareness, and then a phase of being, not doing, which is focused attention, which is just notice when you fall back into old habits, or notice either the thought patterns or the behaviors that have, been repeated over time and led to the same outcome that you don't want. Once you've gathered some data, because, you have the awareness piece, but then you do kind of want to test, is this really true? Is that bad, or will it change if I do something differently? Then you do the deliberate practice. So that is going out, dating, applying for jobs, or, looking into starting up your own business, maybe changing some health habits. You actually then do them and see what changes. So do you sleep better? Do you meet different types of people? Does your network increase? That kind of thing. And the last part isn't so much a stage, but it's accountability, because as we both know, people set a lot of, good intentions and then don't always achieve them. So it's either that you can achieve that yourself, I'm really loving this app at the moment called Habit Share, and I've got 12 micro habits on it, and I have to tick them off every day. And I find that if I do that and I focus on 3 for each quarter of the year, then by the end of the year, I'll have at least 10 habits that I don't even think twice about anymore.
Yeah. What are 3 of the most important habits you're focusing on right now?
Eating more protein, doing more weight-bearing exercise, and they're all so good. I'm just trying to pick one. I think one I'm really into at the moment is listening to chanting, or doing a mantra, or doing tapping, or a hypnosis audio. If I do one of those each day, I'm quite pleased with myself.
What is the ultimate mantra to start manifesting more of what you want? And do you need to believe you're worthy of manifesting first before you can achieve it?
Yeah. So I'll pick up on that second point, because it's a really important factor in why people don't achieve the things they say they want, because deep down they don't believe.
Yeah. And if you bypass the belief, can you still manifest?
I don't think so. Or not as well, let's put it that way. So I'll give you an example of visualization and vision boards. So, I call vision boards action boards.
Yeah. I love that.
And that's to do with you going out into the real world and, doing the actions that will bring your goals nearer to you, not just sitting at home fantasizing about things. But I have come across quite a few people who say, I've been through the magazines, I've cut out the pictures, I know exactly what I want. I can't bring myself to glue them onto the board.
Why?
Well, the first time someone said that, I challenged them really strongly. And I said, I think that's because you don't believe you deserve them. So we had a whole conversation about that, and it turned out to be true. So a couple of times again, when I've heard people say that, or I check more now, I'm like, have you actually stuck them down and put it somewhere prominent? Because the putting it somewhere prominent is a risk as well. I don't know if you recall that my first one was in the bathroom of my apartment, and I was in a one-bedroom, well, I was in a studio apartment at the time. So
You see it every moment. Yeah.
but also anyone that came to my house could see it.
Oh, wow.
You know, it's slightly uncomfortable, particularly in Britain, to be putting, this is how much money I want to earn.
Right. This is the house I want, the
Yeah.
dreams, the
Yeah,
relationship. Yeah,
Exactly.
The status, all of it. Yeah.
But I said to myself, if you know, obviously only my like close friends were coming to my apartment. If you can't even show it to them, how can you tell yourself that that's what you really want? And that you're going to go out into the world and say, this is what I want. And what was really lovely was actually my best friend's husband came over once, and he obviously looked at it when he was in the bathroom, and he said, oh, actually, I've got someone I could introduce you to about, you know, one of the things. So it already helped me that I let other people see it.
Yeah, I've heard different research of like, don't tell anyone your goals, because when you tell someone, you get a false sense of accomplishment, of like excitement and joy, that it's like, so you don't actually have to go make it happen because you're talking about it. And then I've seen the other side where it's like, let people know about your goals so that they can support you in accomplishing them.
Yeah, I mean, I think letting people know so they can support you is one thing, but talking about it does not necessarily mean that you don't have to go and do something. You can talk about it and go and do something.
Yes.
And because the brain doesn't like uncertainty, you may have some fear around actually grasping opportunities that are related to the things that you want. But if you've done the visualization, if you've talked about it, if you've felt in all your senses what it feels like for it to be true, and you've given gratitude for that, you have set your brain up to be in the love trust end of the emotional spectrum, with oxytocin flowing around your blood, making you much more willing to take a healthy risk, to collaborate, to think outside of the box, and reducing, because it's kind of a seesaw effect, the cortisol, the stress hormone, that will drive your amygdala and hippocampus, the emotional and memory centers of your brain. In fear or stress, what happens is that your brain will bring to the front of your mind every single time you ask that girl out and she said no. And it will say, don't go and ask anyone out because you remember what happened when you were that geeky teenager.
You got rejected.
Yeah. Exactly. So we have to really set our brains up to override that, because that's kind of a survival safety mechanism. So gratitude moves us from cortisol to oxytocin. And talking passionately about what you want moves you from cortisol to oxytocin.
Interesting.
Yeah.
In section 5, we have Dr. James Doty. And have you ever wondered what is happening physiologically when you practice manifestation? Something powerful happens. And in this section, the late Dr. James Doty, who is a clinical professor of neurosurgery at Stanford University and was known for studying the neuroscience of manifestation, breaks all of this down right here. You talk about these networks and vibrations. You mentioned this, the physiology of manifesting. I'm curious, is it more important to be thinking a certain intention or certain ideas or beliefs, feeling a certain emotions, or physically in a vibration total body to help you manifest?
Well, certainly if you can bring it all together, I mean, that's the ideal. But I think one is, again, we've talked about limited beliefs.
Yes.
You have to understand what causes you to limit your belief. And in some ways, it comes down to self-compassion. When you're kind to yourself, then that changes your own physiology. It shifts you from the fear network
And critical network into compassion, right?
Yes, exactly. And so I think that's an important aspect. And again, as an example, I talk about these different networks. There's the default mode network, there's the salience network, the attention network, and the executive control network. Now, the reason I mention these is the executive control network actually gets things done, if you want to put it that way. But if you're driven by fear and anxiety and insecurity, then that limits its ability to do so because you don't have full access, because that's where you have productivity and creativity.
Full access to what?
Your entire, your memories and past experiences. This is what the executive control network contains, and it's shut down when you're fearful or anxious. And so that's one aspect. And then, the other aspect, we talk about embedding your intentions. You have to make that thing you want salient.
What does that mean?
It means it has to be something that touches you, that you really feel like it's there with you and you want it. And the reason I bring that up is because salience it activates, if you want to call it, a bloodhound within your head, where it looks around for opportunities for you to manifest. I'll give you an example.
Talk about bloodhound, or you're talking about something else?
It's search for things, right?
Gotcha,
It gets a scent, right? That's what they do for rescue missions, right?
Yes.
Exactly. So what I mean by that is that if you're able to embed your intention, that activates the salience network, which is the bloodhound. And the analogy is as follows. I'm sure you have been to parties, and they're loud, and your name will be mentioned, and you'll immediately turn, even though it's loud.
Yeah, you're like, where is this?
Yeah, but that's because your identity is deeply embedded within you, right?
Interesting, yes.
So when you do this in terms of an intention, and I'll give a recent example. I'm working on a new project, and I was at a coffee shop, and again, loud, everybody talking, but I heard somebody specifically talk about the project the thing I'm doing. So I got up and introduced myself. We connected. And that's how it works, because it creates these synchronicities, because it's always turned on, listening for opportunities, how it can make your intention happen. And another example is, as a neurosurgeon, I would see patients, as an example, let's say somebody with hydrocephalus, right? And most people don't know about that. And they'd go, oh my God, I've never heard of that before. Is that rare? Well, it's not that rare. And obviously, if you're seeing a neurosurgeon, it's not rare to us. But what will happen is I'll see them in a few months, and they'll come back and the most amazing thing happened. I've run into 5 people with the exact same thing, right?
Right.
Because they have embedded that.
Interesting.
And so they're attuned to it, and suddenly it's like it's everywhere set up.
Yeah. You talk about synchronicities in the book. How important is finding and looking for synchronicities when it comes to manifesting?
Well, I think if you do it correctly, they naturally occur over and over again. And you may think they're shocking and how did that happen? But that's because you have made your intention salient. It has grasped your attention network, and it is solely focused on having that happen. And once that process occurs, then you engage your executive control network to actually then respond to it.
Interesting. So you set your intention for what you want to create or desire, and then your attention starts to focus on that in the world, in your environment, and you start to see where the synchronicities line up. And then I think you mentioned this thing called the filing clerk, right?
Yes, exactly. And that relates in some ways. First of all, one of the process which we talked about, having the ability on a conscious level to embed your intention, that is to, we call it value tag, right? Which makes it important.
Rather than intention.
Yes. And so once you value tag that becomes important in your subconscious, and then the networks start working together.
To look for it.
Yes. Now, what I will emphasize, and I don't want to, completely poo-poo every article that's been written about manifesting. I mentioned the issues I have with The Secret or these self-serving narratives. But the reality is we know that what wires together, fires together.
Yes.
And my point about that is, number one, you have to work. This isn't like, oh, I thought of it, therefore it should happen. It's like anything, and we talked about it earlier. Everybody's manifesting every day. They just do it very inefficiently, right? So when you do it efficiently, all of these things, come together to have it happen. This is why as an example, what this woman in the magic shop did, and this was before, these ideas sort of were out there, she made me write my list of things I wanted to manifest down. Because again, when you use every sensory organ, then again, you're engaging all of these different things that go into your subconscious. So you write it down, you read it silently, you read it aloud, you look at it, you visualize, and this is what athletes do. They visualize how it's going to play out. They see themselves in that role. And the more and more you do that, the stronger that wiring gets in your brain, and therefore that increases the chance of it happening.
Interesting. So she taught you this, you wrote it down, and you started doing these processes.
Oh, I would really do this like tens of, maybe hundreds of times a day.
Wow.
Over and over and over again.
But it took you a while until you were able, from 12 until you were able to get, $1 million in the bank, and the mansion, the Ferrari. It didn't happen in 4 years, I'm assuming. It probably took 15 or 20 years.
Well, sure, but there was a whole process, right?
Yes.
Because, first of all, I had decided to be a doctor in 4th grade.
Right.
And this was based on a professions day where a doctor came to our class, and I was so impressed by this person that second I decided to be a doctor because he was kind, he was thoughtful, he answered my question, he appeared interested in what I had to say. And so saying, if you're poor and you don't have resources, saying I'm going to be a doctor is easier said than done.
Sure.
And in fact, I did have challenges, but I'll tell you a couple stories, though, that tells you how the system works, even though you haven't done all the typical things to make it work.
Okay.
And so I'll tell you how I got into medical school and how I got into college. I was so clueless about college, even though I said I was going to go to college. I was in a science class, and there was a girl sitting next to me, and she was filling out her college application. I had no clue about that.
That you had to apply or...
Yeah,
Yeah.
I was sort of waiting until it was supposed to happen.
Sure.
So I looked at this girl, and I asked her what she was doing. She said, well, I'm applying to college, and this is the application. I said, really? And she looked at me and said, yeah. And I said, well, where are you applying to? And she said, UC Irvine. And she looked at me and she said, where are you applied? I said, UC Irvine.
Yeah. That was
and
the process.
said, I haven't got my application yet. She said, I have an extra one.
Wow. There you go. And that...
Yeah, and I filled that out, and I got in. But
isn't that interesting before you go on there? Because you were given the opportunity that you saw that was in front of you. You didn't think beyond other schools. You saw something, you didn't know another process. Said, yeah, I'm going to go there as well. And she said, here's the application. You filled it out, you got in, and you went there. Right?
Yeah, no, and that's my point is it was in there. I didn't know how it was going to play out.
Yes.
But it played out, and it certainly wasn't the typical way
process.
It would play out.
Yeah, exactly.
So then what happened is, I had a lot of struggles. I had to leave college multiple times, as an example, to get my father out of jail, or to deal with my mother who attempted suicide, which are not pleasant things to have to go through. And so when I applied to medical school, the average GPA to get into medical school was 3.79 at that time, which is, out of 4, that's like an A-, right?
Yeah, sure.
My GPA then was 2.53.
Wow.
And I was not
You and me both.
Yeah,
Let's go.
Yeah. And I was not going to graduate from college.
Right.
And so I went to the pre-med, and of course, as you know, when you have all these quote-unquote friends, and you say, I want to be a doctor, and many of my friends were pre-med, and they were the type of pre-meds who had 3.7.
Sure.
And it was very hurtful because they said, you're never going to be a doctor. That GPA, what a joke, right? Which, this is your dream, right?
It's painful.
So anyway, you used to have to have an interview with the pre-med committee. So you had to go get an appointment, and then they would write a letter of recommendation for you. So I went to the office. I asked the secretary, I said, I want to make an appointment for my pre-med letter.
Yes.
She looked at me, she said, I'm not going to give you an appointment. I said, well, why? She had pulled out my file. She said, because it's a waste of everyone's time.
Oh, man.
Now, can you imagine a human being telling you that you're a waste of their time. I mean, how hurtful.
Very.
But I looked at the woman and I said, I appreciate what you're saying, but I said, I am not leaving here until you give me that appointment.
Wow.
I said, if you want to call security, that's fine, but I am not leaving. So she did. But imagine, so it comes time for my appointment. Now, do you remember these photos we've seen of Putin sitting at one end of a table? He's by himself. And
Yes, yes.
So I go into this room, and I'm at one end of this long table, and I'm, 20 years old maybe? And then there are these three people at the other end of the table. And the guy in the middle, he has my file. And he looks at me and says, he takes the file, lifts it, throws it on the table, and he says, say what you have to say so we can get this over with.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, my goodness.
And you sit there and, how intimidating. And what a jerk, right? So what happened is I looked at the guy and I said, I am not going to let you turn me into a grade point average. I'm a human being.
Wow.
So I proceeded to lecture them for about 20 minutes.
Oh, my goodness.
They were all crying at the end. Right? Because once you show your humanity, they can't turn away from you. They can't objectify you if you're right there in front of them and force them to look at you.
Wow.
And so what happened is they ended up actually giving me the highest letter recommendation.
Wow.
And as I was leaving, that secretary actually was in the room. She said, listen, I want you to take this. And it was a trifold brochure for a summer enrichment program at Tulane University in New Orleans for socioeconomically disadvantaged students and minority students. And she looked at me and she said, I have to tell you something, though. The deadline has passed, but I don't think that will impact you.
Wow. Right.
So I called the lady, and she let me into the program. And I applied to one medical school and got into one medical school.
Wow.
And I didn't have a degree.
Wow.
Now, to show you, though, the importance of this is that after Hurricane Katrina, the dean of the medical school went into depression and resigned, okay? And so they were looking for a new dean.
At Tulane.
At Tulane.
Yeah.
And they had a guy from Harvard, but he wanted an endowed chair. And I don't know if you're familiar with an endowed chair. No. So an endowed chair is a private donor, donates a lot of money, and it is a chair named after that person. It's one of the highest honors in academic medicine, or in the university. And that money is made into an endowment. So then the professor then gets to use it for whatever they want. So it's a very prestigious thing. So I actually ended up endowing the dean's chair. Fast forward many years.
Sure.
Wow. Yeah, which was several $1 million.
Interesting.
So still at Tulane, the dean of the medical school is the Doty professor.
Wow.
I rebuilt the library after Hurricane Katrina. And so the point of the story is no one has the ability to tell you what you can and cannot do. And in theory, by every, quote, criteria, I should never have gotten into medical school, right? Yet, I'm one of the largest donors to the medical school. And in fact, they're actually building a Doty Center for Compassion in Medicine at Tulane.
That's cool.
Yeah. So when we think that things are impossible, when we think that it can't happen, or I don't have the criteria that is usually, don't ever believe anything anyone tells you. If I believed what so many people told me was not possible for me to do, I would never have accomplished anything.
In section 6, we have Gary Zukov, and there are 2 laws that are the driving forces behind reshaping your dream reality, according to Gary Zukov, who is known for exploring the connection between consciousness, personal growth, and the soul. And in this section, he breaks it all down.
The world is not going to change until you change. Now, this is something that will light red lights by the hundreds of thousands of any of our listeners who are still using their intellect as their main guidance vehicle through life. The intellect is designed to work closely with the 5 senses. It analyzes, compares, deduces, and reports the most effective ways to pursue external power, manipulate and control. And like I say, this used to be good medicine. It's now toxic. As we become multisensory, the intellect cannot follow. It's not designed to move into multisensory perception. I mean, five-sensory perception in a way it can't grasp, it can't compute. And to communicate and articulate multisensory perception requires a higher order of logic and reasoning or understanding of the heart. So there are many things that you'll see and be able to articulate as you begin to use your multisensory perception, which is a gift. It's a gift. You don't have to develop it, although we will, like we develop cognition. But all you have to do is unwrap it and use it. Yeah. Look at your experiences. Sometimes you know things about people that your five senses didn't tell you. You just know. That's a multisensory perception. And you can use all of these things, and you will. And I suggest that you do. And you use all of what we talked about to answer the big questions that you've just brought up, Lewis. And the last one was very practical. So you asked for a practical example from my life. I'm going
to ask another question while you answered that, because I think this might cue it up. And I think a lot of my audience loves this conversation around the law of attraction. And I'm curious, what is your thoughts on attachment versus the law of attraction, and using the intention of love to create something and attract into your life without being attached to the result? What's your thoughts on that?
The law of attraction is as simple as you described it, or I think as you were describing it. Energy attracts like energy. That's the law of attraction. Remember I told you when I was in the coffee shop talking about whether we create the reality that we're discussing and experimenting with, and that I was with people like me. They were intellectual, arrogant, superior, judgmental. I didn't notice it at the time. I thought they were good guys. If your experience is that life is a brutal dog-eat-dog world, that's the world you're living in. If you are loving, that's the world you're going to live in. That's the law of attraction. And it's accurate. If you think I'm going to use the law of attraction because I'm going to get more money, recognition, love, sex, fixes, whatever it is, you're going to draw more people with exactly that energy. That's the law of attraction. Now, as you can see, it's one of the great non-physical dynamics that affect the earth school, and the other is the law of cause and effect, which in the East is called karma. Karma is a message delivery system. Whenever you act with an intention, that intention creates consequences, and those consequences will affect other people. And when other people experience those consequences, you will experience what they experience. Now, let me give you a concrete example. Suppose you betray someone. Like some people have told me of someone not showing up at a wedding. Others have told us, I did that, or I wish I had. I was walking down the aisle and I knew I shouldn't be doing this. I knew it, but I did anyway. And now 30 years later, we're getting divorced, and I paid the price of not listening to my intuition. And other people have never forgiven someone who didn't show up at the wedding. So these are examples of betrayal. If you do that, you will experience betrayal, but it may not come in the same terms, in the same package that you're expecting. For example, a platoon leader may abandon you in combat. Someone you've gotten to know, your bookkeeper, embezzles from you. You may not recognize the wrapping, but when it comes, you'll recognize what's in the package. The same experience that your choices of intention created in someone else. So that's why we can look at the universal law of cause and effect as a message delivery system. Whenever you choose an intention of love or fear and you act on it, you send a message. And on that message, the address on that message is return to sender. And it always comes back to you with precision. It doesn't matter if you move. It doesn't matter if you die. It doesn't matter. You will get the message. The universal law of cause and effect is the universal impersonal teacher of responsibility. And that accompanies, stands side by side with the law of attraction. People who are 5 sensory say, I'll believe it when I see it. People who are multisensory know, I'll see it when I believe it. Can I give you a story that illustrates the law of attraction?
Yes.
All right, so it's a young couple, is driving through Vermont in foliage, and it's gorgeous. And they see an old man rocking on his porch. So they decide they want to interact, and they stop the car, and they walk up to him, and they said, what are people like who live here? And the old man said, well, what are they like where you come from? And then the couple thought, and they said, well, they're not very forgiving. They're pretty hard people. They all want what they can get. And the old man said, yeah, well, they're pretty much like that here too. Shortly after, another couple drove by the same house, talked to the same old man, and they said, asked the same question. What are the people like who live here? The old man asked them the same question. What are they like where you come from? And they said, oh, they're forgiving, they're loving, they're good neighbors. They care about one another. And the old man said, people here are much like that too. That's the law of attraction. But once you know the law of attraction, you know that your energy is continually attracting people to you that reflect your energy. They're not commenting on it. They're not judging it. It's like the law of cause and effect doesn't comment on your messages. It doesn't discuss them. It just delivers them. And the law of attraction doesn't show you what's better or what's worse. It shows you you. And as we become multisensory, we begin to experience these things directly and to experiment with them.
And when you try to live a life that isn't authentic to you, you will always remain stuck. In this section is Tabitha Brown, who is an award-winning actress and best-selling author. And she's going to be breaking down how to have the confidence to live as your true self in order to manifest your dream life. What do you think is the true key to attracting and manifesting exactly what is meant for us in life?
I think walking in your truth will do that, right? Showing up exactly who you are allows the things that belong to you to come, because when we create a different person, as I did for myself, right? When you are pretending to be someone else, God can't bless who you're not.
Ooh.
He can only bless who you are.
Right.
So,
wow.
Right. So if I am pretending to be somebody else, what are these blessings that I'm getting? Those aren't mine. That's something I created. But when I just be me, I can get everything he has for me.
And the interesting thing, you see people who are blessed for being someone they're not. Mm-hmm. They're usually depressed, anxious, stressed, or it's never enough. It's never good enough because they still aren't good enough. They're not being who they're meant to be.
Mm-hmm. They're always chasing something else.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's almost a greater challenge. It's like you're being blessed, but you don't feel enough.
Right.
You have everything, but you feel worthless.
Or empty.
Empty.
No peace.
No peace.
Yeah. I mean, that's the freedom and being true to who you are. It's the best gift you can give to yourself.
How can someone know what their truth is when they've been wearing a mask for so long?
Oh, honey, we all, I feel like we know our truth, right? Your truth is in your silence when no one else is around, right? It's the things that you say to yourself. It's the things that you do, like childhood memories, before you were taught that you weren't enough and before you believed it, right? That's your truth. Sometimes we have to go back to our childlike thoughts because as children, we're free. We're born knowing what we're supposed to do, but we're taught how to have fear. We're taught no. We're taught yes, right? We're taught how to speak, all the things. But we're also influenced by our parents, by our friends and peers and different things. Sometimes unintentionally, it just naturally happens and you're influenced. But what your truth is, how you feel when you're alone, the things that you used to enjoy doing as a kid that nobody had to tell you to do. Like, that's your truth, right? Sometimes that's also your passion and purpose. We have to go back to that before we were taught, oh, no, you can't have that dream. Oh, no, you can't do that because, they don't make money. You should do this X, Y, and Z. You go back to, what did you used to love to play when you were kids, right? Did you love to play office? Did you love to play sports? Did you love to play, did you take care of dolls and treat them like you were a doctor? Like, what was your thing that you did every day without hesitation until somebody told you that that was just a game? Sometimes that's your purpose. That's the thing that you were put here to do.
Yeah.
Before somebody told you couldn't. And so you go back to that, and then it's like, oh, that was my truth that I let somebody tell me was a lie. But that belongs to me. Those are your feelings. Those are your things that still matter for you. But we have to tap back into it. Got to get back to that.
And when you were in that bathroom having that conversation with God, what was it again you said?
If you heal me, you can have me.
If you heal me, you can have me. That's powerful. And you said when you left that, something shifted inside of you.
Yeah. I felt lighter.
Interesting.
I felt lighter, and I just felt different. It's hard to explain that. But every day from that day, it was just like, something is happening. I have this thing sometimes where I can walk outside and the air will feel different on my skin. And I know a shift is happening. Like I know it's coming. I'm like, oh, something's about to happen. It's a weird thing, but I can feel it. I remember I used to work this job. I was working a 9 to 5 in LA. And we had a warehouse, and then we had office space. And so I would go, because I was in charge of like shipping and coordinating. So I would go to the warehouse sometime to take paperwork and then walk back to my office. And there was a very long hallway. And this particular day, I had felt the wind shift. And so when I had left the warehouse to come back down this long hallway, I sometimes still do this, but I remember this day, I would close my eyes and I wouldn't even care about where I was going. I would just walk with my eyes closed this long hallway. Because it was just, I could just envision whatever the shift was, like, God got something else for me that's coming. And I remember a girl that was working, she was coming out of the bathroom. And so she was like, standing in the hallway. She was like, Tabitha.
So you had your eyes closed, walking.
And it started me. And she was like, you were just walking with your eyes closed. I was like, oh, girl, honey, sometime, honey, I do that because I'm just seeing where he's taking me. It's a weird thing. I can't explain like why I do some of the things I do. It's also, I feel like it's part of the gift.
Absolutely.
Yeah. But after I left the bathroom that day, it was about 2 or 3 weeks later, I had this dream. And in the dream, I saw myself on a show, right? But the screen was small, and I've told the story a million times. And when I woke up, I was like, okay, Lord, reveal that to me, because during this time, I'm not really auditioning. I'm not doing any acting. I wouldn't do a stand-up. I wouldn't do any things that would land me on the show because I was not well. And I had a conversation with God, and he said, start doing videos. And I was like, I'm not doing no videos. Honey, I'm an actress, a broke actress, but an actress nonetheless.
I'm not doing that
right?
social media thing.
That. Why would I do that? And also because, as an actor, then we were always told when I would go to acting classes or different things, stay away from social media. They won't take you serious in Hollywood. Right. And I believed it. Okay. And so the voice was clear, start doing videos. And I was like, Lord, I don't want to do videos. And he was like, listen, when you were out doing stand-up, you were trying to get a TV show. And them little, open mic nights, you were getting 15, 30 people to see you a night. Yeah. You start doing videos, you reach thousands in minutes. And I was like, that's where I got you, because I ain't got thousands of followers to reach in minutes. The voice again, start doing videos. So I was like, I don't want to do that. So then he reminded me, he said, remember in the bathroom, he said, if I heal you, I can have you.
Ooh.
And I said,
do you want to be healed or not?
I was like, he caught me on a bad day that day, but I did say that.
Did I really say that?
Did I really say that? I was having a rough day that day. But that's the only reason I started doing videos.
Wow.
Right?
Because you heard the voice and said, start doing videos.
Yeah.
And you didn't have a big audience then.
No, I had, my Facebook. I had my regular Facebook family put, 3,000 to 5,000 people, whatever your thing is on Facebook. I might have had 1,300 followers or something on my Facebook actor page.
Small audience.
Oh, as small as you can get it, and probably the same on Instagram. And I was like, well, I ain't even got thousands of followers to watch me. Thousands of minutes, what are you talking about? And I was like, okay, but I also was trying to live a life of obedience. So I was like, okay, I got to start doing these videos. And then I was like, Lord, what am I going to do a video about? So when I first started doing the videos, I was telling jokes and telling stories of, being a mama and a wife, same stuff I used to kind of tell on stage. And during that time, those same, few weeks, my daughter had came home and told me about the documentary that she watched at school, What the Hell? Because she knew I was sick. We watched it as a family, and I decided to do a 30-day vegan challenge. And after the 30 days, I was like, I was feeling better. 10 days, the first 10 days, I'd had a headache for 1 year and 7 months in the back of my head every day.
Wow.
Every day. I would fall when I would walk. I lost my vision for a day. My body was just attacking itself. First 10 days, my headache disappeared. After every drug, I was getting shots in my head. I was getting everything they offered me. If anything, it was probably making me worse. Nothing worked. 10 days of eating plants, headache disappeared. And so I told my husband, I was like, I think this is going to be my life. I think I'm going to go vegan. And the moment I said that out of my mouth, on that day 30, I was like, I'm not going to go back. I think I'm going to be vegan. The same voice told me to start doing videos. Like a hummingbird would fly by your ear. That's how I can explain it. That's how it sounds. I was like, now tell people what you're eating in your videos.
Wow.
And I said, oh, Lord, I don't know if I want to do that because that makes it kind of permanent. Like, I'm from North Carolina.
Yeah,
I'm not doing a challenge.
Food.
I'm doing, for real, this is my life. I'm going to be vegan. And I never wanted people to feel like I was trying to shame anybody or anything. And I was just like, I don't know. I had also shaved off all my hair at the time because my hair was always long and straight. So I was just doing a whole new, transformation. And so I was like, okay. I just started telling people, y'all, I'm going vegan. And when I find food items, I'm going to share it with y'all. I'm going to cook some recipes and share when I find, good vegan food. And that's how it started. And nobody was watching. I was like, it's 33 people on here, Lord, while I'm cooking live. You said thousands in minutes. Where are they? I would cry because I'd be like, I don't know why God has me doing this. I don't know what I'm doing. And, that was August of 2017. And I think by October, I started, I was feeling so much better. I started driving Uber because I didn't go back to work. I'd been on disability for over a year. And so I told my husband, I was like, I was like, I don't want to go back to a 9 to 5. I'm going to just see what God got out here for me. I'm in LA. I'm going to drive Uber, probably pick up a producer or a director. They're going to love me. I call you from set. That's how I think. I'm like, I'm about to get discovered in my car out here in LA. And December 30th of 2017, I dropped somebody off by Whole Foods driving Uber that morning. Went in there and got me a breakfast sandwich because I was still, vegan, new to being vegan, but Whole Foods always got a vegan option. So I was like, I'm going to go in here and get me breakfast. Had never heard of vegan bacon at that time. They had a sandwich in the prepared food section, and it was called a TLTA, and it was like tempeh bacon and lettuce, tomato, avocado. I was like, I ain't never heard of that. Throw me a little pickle on there, honey, a little onion and stuff. Ate the first half so fast, I was like, oh, wait, I need to do a video to tell people I found a new vegan option. Sat in my car because I was on my Uber break, did a video, posted it, went on back to driving Uber. By the time I got home, that video had like 50,000 views. I was like,
wow,
who watching this video? Next morning, over 100-something thousand. I was like, I told my husband, I said, I think I'm going viral. He was like, what that mean? I was like, I don't know.
People are watching though.
Exactly. He was like, you gonna make any money? I was like, I have no idea. 4 days later, Whole Foods reached out and they were like, we saw your video. On Facebook, they DM'd me. And they were like, we would love to work with you. And I became their brand ambassador for plant-based living, did over 15 campaigns, and the rest is history. Yep, honey, ain't drove Uber since, but I will if I have to, but I haven't. And my life has been on this journey ever since.
These 7 sections are everything you need to manifest the life you want. I hope you have enjoyed this, and it has given you the guidance to start creating your new life starting right now. You are not a passenger in your life. You are the creator. And if this episode moved you or inspired you in any way, make sure to share it with someone that you think would be inspired to hear it or listen to it as well. Please leave a comment as well with what you plan to manifest for yourself the rest of this year. Just comment what you want to manifest below to lock that in and start manifesting it right now. I check out all the comments. They always inspire me, so make sure to comment and like this video as well. Thank you for being here. Thank you for choosing your growth. And as always, I want to remind you that you are loved You are worthy and you matter. If you keep finding yourself drained, confused, or questioning your worth after certain relationships, then this episode is for you. Now, have you ever wondered, why do I always attract this type of person? Or why do I feel so small after loving them?